from a very special guest, Mr. Arijit Sen Gupta, Director, Bureau of Energy Efficiency. Mr. Sen Gupta is a director with B, Ministry of Power, Government of India, where he is responsible for international cooperation, demand-side management, financing of energy efficiency initiatives, planning, and statistics. So please take the dais.
A very good afternoon to all of you, and apologies for joining a bit late. And I already heard from others that we already had a very interesting and a good morning session. So at the outset, I would like to congratulate AEEE for organizing this District Cooling International Conference as part of the Energize 2023 in association with APUA, KPMG, UNEP, and of course GIZ. So if we look at the reason as to why we are all here, like global warming and other things. So, and one of the visible impacts of global warming, if we look at, is the growing cooling demand. We have observed in the last 2 to 3 decades as of now. And when we are talking about growing of cooling demand in the globally, if we'll take the example of India, then as per the India Cooling Action Plan, which was launched in 2019 by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, then we can see that there is already, it has been mentioned, that the cooling demand is going to rise by almost 8 times. So roughly from 120 terawatt hour in 2017-18 to around 970 terawatt hour in 2037-38. So the India Cooling Action Plan, which provides a detailed action plan as to how to limit the cooling demand in the country over a 20-year horizon. And one of the objectives is to optimize the cooling demand across the country. When we are talking about optimizing the cooling demand, then of course there are 2 ways which we have already started doing in our country long back. One is through the Bureau of Energy Efficiency's star labeling program of air conditioners, wherein we are trying to reduce the active cooling load of households and buildings. And other is through our energy conservation building codes, the commercial building codes, which was updated in 2017, and also the Eco-Niwas Samhita, which is the residential building code, through which we are going for a more better design of the buildings so as to reduce the passive cooling demand or the overall cooling, reduce the cooling demand of the buildings as such. So these are the steps which we have already undertaken as Bureau of Energy Efficiency as per the mandate provided by the Act. And of course, the Act has been now amended twice, once in 2010 and then also in last year, December, during the winter session of the Parliament. And we are now going to come up with a new code for buildings, that is the Energy Sustainable and Conservation Building Code. So the sustainability features or the green features will also now be integrated as part of the Energy Conservation Building Code, which was otherwise focusing mostly on energy efficiency features. Now, if we look at the India Cooling Action Plan, it has also mentioned, apart from, of course, the kind of important steps that we have already undertaken in the form of the standards and labeling program and also energy conservation building codes. It also talks about promoting not-in-kind technologies like district cooling. If we look at the country today, we have a penetration of air conditioners which is around less than 10%. And if we look globally, we look at the developed countries, I mean, it will easily be around 20 to 25% the, of the population will have access to cooling by 2030, 2035. So that is something which is bound to happen. And district cooling is something which provides a ready-made solution. I mean, is a solution which is already, technology is proven, it has been successfully demonstrated, successfully showcased, successfully running in many parts of the country and also in India. Of course, there are challenges that are there with the technology, and that's why the uptake is slower than expected. But let us talk about the benefits first. If we look at the benefits, then the first benefit is, of course, the fact that when you talk about a district cooling system, then we are basically essentially supplying chilled water from a centralized plant to a cluster of buildings. So that opens up a lot of space, the rooftop space in buildings, so we don't require a cooling tower, and also the individual chiller plants. So the space, which is of course a constraint in a country like India, there, of course, again, I mean, district cooling can play an important role. Secondly, if we look from the refrigerant point of view, I mean, as you're all aware, India is a signatory to the Kigali Amendment of the Montreal Protocol. And there we have already committed to start the phase down of HFCs, which is the most majorly used refrigerant in air conditioners today, by 2032 till 2047. So we need to phase down 85%. And the picking will happen from 2026 to 2028. So we have already, I think, many of you are already engaged in those discussions, which is being led by the Ministry of Environment and Forest. So that is again a challenge in a country like India, because as we all understand that most of these refrigerant technologies, they are patented. And to get those technologies available in a country with having a lower GWP refrigerant, it will increase the cost of the air conditioners, which will ultimately increase the burden on the consumers, which of course we don't want. So again, I think district cooling is one such technology which can easily solve that dilemma that we are in a right situation right now. So here, I think we can very well get chilled water with a very low refrigerant, and using natural refrigerants as well. However, the same is a challenge when we talk about air conditioners. And we have already seen that when we are trying to switch from R32, which is like 75% of the market share of refrigerant today is of R32, when we are trying to switch to R290 or 241A, so we are facing challenges as far as compressor designs are concerned, and that the manufacturers have also reported those challenges. So that is the second, I think, issue which the country like us is facing. It can be easily solved through the district cooling thing. The third thing, of course, is the energy savings. So when we look at our air conditioners, and in this year, the peak demand, the peak electricity demand in our country was reported was more than 240 gigawatt in the summers. And it is a well-known fact that the major contributor to this peak demand is the air conditioning load that happens during the nights, that around 9 to 11 p.m. in the night in all the cities across the country. So if we look, and again, district cooling is something where we can easily solve the issue related to the peak, the contribution of cooling to the peak electricity load. So again, I would say the third advantage, or third very well documented advantage is through the district cooling, is that we can easily solve that our peak, the problem that we face with purchasing power at a higher rate. So these are, of course, the ready-made advantages which has just came to my mind. Of course, there are many others, and we have international delegates, we have eminent speakers who are much more, from the field, who are much more aware and who are much more, who are working on this area for a long time. And maybe there will be much more benefits that will be kind of informed to all of us in the course of the today and tomorrow's conference. But yes, when we talk about the advantages, of course, there are challenges. And one of the challenges that I think has, I would say, has act as a barrier to the uptake of district cooling is the initial high cost and the long-term contracts that we normally are referring to. So we are discussing in the ministries and in the government how to solve that issue. That is one issue. Second is, of course, the fact that there are not too many OEMs in the country who can come up with the entire solution, the end-to-end solution of a district cooling. So again, we don't want to end up kind of importing technologies. So that is another, I would say, challenge that is kind of hindering to a certain extent the uptake. But nevertheless, I mean, the GIFT City example, of course, Rajiv Sharma ji is also here. And I don't know whether he has already shared his experience or he will be sharing in the due course. So it is a live example. And I mean, as a country, we are proud, of course, that GIFT City has successfully demonstrated that district cooling is possible and it can provide non-stop cooling to the beneficiaries, I mean, at a very affordable rate. And of course, as part of our G20 presidency and as part of the Energy Transition Working Group of the G20, we have organized a site visit for all the G20 delegates to GIFT City. And it was highly kind of acknowledged and kind of applauded by all the international delegates. So that's, we feel that, of course, district cooling has a role to play and it will play a role. Only thing is that the initial thinking mindset barrier is something which is hindering us from its uptake. But nevertheless, we have recently come up with the guidelines for district cooling. And I just got to know that it is not yet in the public domain. So again, apologies for that. We'll ensure that it is made in the public domain as soon as possible. And we can build on that. I'm not saying that it is a foolproof document, but of course we have done a lot of stakeholder consultations and we have taken inputs from all of you. But always there is a scope of improvement and we'll all look forward to your inputs on that document, if any, to maybe come up with a next and a better version in the next 2-3 years from now on. In the end, I would also like to highlight that, of course, India Cooling Action Plan is there, which paves the way for district cooling, which talks about district cooling. There is one more thing. As part of our G20 presidency, the G20 leaders have taken note of the voluntary action plan to double the rate of energy efficiency by 2030. So, and we have prepared a detailed report which lays down the action plan. And if we look at the voluntary action plan, in fact, just a while back, I just got a message from the ministry that I think in the COP also a similar kind of a pledge is going to be announced. Voluntary, I mean, doubling the efficiency rate. So if we look at those points, then again, I think district cooling is going to play a major role. So when you're talking about doubling the energy efficiency rate, wherein energy intensity is taken as the proxy to measure the improvement in energy efficiency. So globally, the energy efficiency rate or the energy intensity reduction as reported by International Energy Agency was around 1% from 2000 to 2010 and around 1.8% from 10 to 20 or around, and now it is around 2%. So what we're talking about is roughly like improving from 1.8% that we had, average rate of improvement from 2010 to 2020 to around 3.5 to 4% from the period 2020 to 2030. And if we look at India, we already have a higher improvement in energy intensity. So our energy intensity improvement, again, as reported by the International Energy Agency, is around 2.4%. But while we need to grow from 2.4 to 3.5, it will be difficult, and technologies like district cooling can play a crucial role in transforming or in enabling us to achieve those goals. I will stop here. Of course, I again, I would like to thank the organizers for organizing this seminar on this important topic. And I hope that we will have more important deliberations in the sessions that will follow now and also in the sessions tomorrow. Thank you very much.